Good afternoon. First coach of the afternoon is Mike Leach, the head football coach at Mississippi State. He's a two-time National Coach of the Year, a three-time Power 5 Conference Coach of the Year. So that, just to be clear, a Coach of the Year in a conference setting on 3 different occasions in 2 different conferences. Mastermind behind the NCAA record-setting air raid offense. He instructed me that the line that says he walks on water is now incorrect. He actually jogs on water. He's compiled 150 wins, guided his teams to 18 bowl games, produced 7 seasons of at least 9 victories, won 2 conference division titles, the winningest coach at Texas Tech, and record for bowl appearances at both Texas Tech and Washington State. He has 3 degrees, one from BYU, an undergraduate degree, a Juris Doctorate degree from Pepperdine, great location to go to law school, and a master's degree from the United States Sports Academy. He was a head coach of a football team in Finland in the European Football League. When he was at Washington State, he taught a 5-week course on insurgent warfare and football strategies. This past spring at Mississippi State, he had several hundred Mississippi State students gather for a special guest lecture on the same topic. He's an author of 2 books, provides, I've been told, outstanding Netflix recommendations, although he's never shared those with me. He's an expert on the best barbecue in town. And also is a world traveler. So this year, Colombia and Panama, last year, an African safari. The head football coach at Mississippi State University, Mike Leach.
Yes, sir. All right, well, I appreciate that. Any questions?
All right, if you have questions, raise your hand. We'll get started right away. Aaliyah, Bailey, and Kiera will get to you. We're going to go right over here on our left, 3rd row. Coach, right over here to our left. Should be good. Go ahead and try it again. All right, we
you could yell, maybe. I don't know.
Let's try to get, do we have another microphone? Can we go ahead and get the sound in the back up, please? All right, we need the question mics up, please. Let's try it again over here on the left.
How you doing, Coach Leach? Scotty from Off Script. I asked Coach Lane about the personalities in Mississippi. He corrected me and said there were 3, including yourself. What possibilities you, Lane Kiffin, have in playing Jackson State, being in-state competition for each other? Is there a possibility that you'll ever see or your team will play at HBCU as Jackson State?
You know, I'm not sure. I mean, it's possible. I think it's possible. We don't have anything scheduled that I'm aware of. Of course, on my staff, Tony Hughes used to coach at Jackson State, and I know a bunch of those guys on the staff, and they do a really good job. And then Coach Sanders is a blast if you know him. I mean, just talking to him's fun. And then I mean, I wouldn't rule it out, but we don't have anything scheduled.
Okay, we're going to go right here on this near aisle. Drew?
Drew DeArmond, WZZN Radio, Huntsville, Alabama coach. I wanted to ask you about your offense. It's, of course, the air raid. You've been known for production since your days at Texas Tech. You took a jump in productivity in year 2. What's the area you think that needs to be improved the most, and what do you like about your offense heading into year 3?
Well, we've got some starts. We're still, I guess, on paper, kind of a medium young team, but we do have a lot of starts, and I think that's helpful. So we do have experience to draw on. I think we need to sharpen up at receivers. I think we need to kind of polish up our receiver play. I mean, we have good guys that work hard, and I have a sense of urgency, that type of thing. But we, I just think we need to be sharper. We have a mixture of really young and and old there, and I do think we're getting better, and I thought we had a good spring. But I think we can sharpen up there.
Coach, we'll go over to our right, about halfway back.
Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South. Sankey said that you have some Netflix recommendations. Would you be willing to share those with us?
Yeah, I wish I'd watched more Netflix lately, and I haven't. Somebody said I need to watch The Terminal List, which I haven't watched it yet. I guess The Hidden Gem, which I think I said it last year. Operation Odessa, that documentary, you need to watch that, about these international criminals that try to buy a submarine for Pablo Escobar. That's worth watching. I wish I could tell you I'd watch more Netflix. I haven't watched a lot lately. And during the season, it's good to watch, to kind of get your head straight. But I'm up to date on Better Call Saul. I'm up to date on Yellowstone. I'll tell you, that's part of it. The kids got me into Stranger Things, and I'm certainly not ready for this season. I'm about halfway through. I don't know. So if you guys have any good recommendations, I could probably use them. And so I guess I'll defer to the numbers here.
All right, Coach, we'll go right in front of me, about 3 rows back. Kirk?
Kirk Bowles from the Austin American Statesman.
Oh, good to see you again.
Good to see you, Mike. Severance is pretty good. I'm not sure if that's Netflix or not.
What is it?
Severance, about mind control.
Oh, yeah.
So you might check it out.
Well, don't try any funny stuff.
Okay, all right. I couldn't get to you. I know you missed Texas and Oklahoma desperately. I was curious to your reaction when you found they were going to be joining the conference, and how long do you think it'd take them to get acclimated for this league?
Well, I think they're kind of already acclimated from the standpoint, good teams play as hard as they can and try to improve their skills along the way. And so I think they're certainly ready to do that. I think the competition level raised. And then, from my standpoint, and I get asked that, especially from the Texas and the Oklahoma people, from their standpoint, I think it's going to change things quite dramatically. From our standpoint, you guys have us as having the toughest schedule in the country. So that being the case, we can't play everybody. So knock 2 of those guys off and add OU and Texas, and I probably gained about half a step, I would think. The 2 most eastern teams in the West are the 2 Alabama schools, so send them east, and we have to play Texas and OU, and I probably gained a little on that.
Coach, we'll go over to our right side along the far aisle.
Brent Zorneman, Houston Chronicle. Coach, whose side are you on in Jimbo versus Nick?
I think they both kind of illustrate the frustration of how things are, right now, and it's not sustainable, so something's going to change. Right now, we haven't defined what exactly is an amateur or a student athlete as opposed to a professional, and I think we need to do that. And I think there is ways to do it. I think that, some football players may be in their best interest to remain a student athlete and, under that model as opposed to professional and vice versa. And I think that's got to be defined. Currently, college athletes have more privileges than anybody at any other professional level. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't think it stays the same because there's responsibilities that go along with being a professional. And I've said this before, you've probably already written it down. But those guys lock themselves in rooms and watch film all the time, so you'll be able to get away with it. go up to your next favorite NFL guy and say, hey, I heard in the NFL they're going to have unmitigated free agency, 365, 24/7. And by the way, there's not going to be any salary cap or draft. You're just going to have bidding wars. And just watch the expression on their face. And don't look at anything else or write down any notes, because the expression on their face will be well worth it. And so I don't see this as, I don't think the dust is settled. We're in a big transition period on a number of things in college football, and and we got, sharp guys actively trying to sort it out, and I hope that it will be. And yeah.
Coach, we're going to go right here in the section in front of me, about halfway back. There we go.
Good afternoon, Coach. Jacob Goins from ESPN 106.7 in Auburn. Now that you have some experience as a head coach here in the SEC West, how have you adjusted your coaching strategies with such a tough schedule year in and year out?
Well, you just try to get better. I mean, there's not much to adjust. I mean, if you're determined to improve your team, the best way to improve the team is improve yourself. And after that, everybody gets on that page. And then if you're constantly trying to improve yourself, you're trying to get better and you're trying to do the best you can. So you can, if you have full effort, then eventually, you can improve from that and set a new ceiling. And if you're doing that all the time, if you're truly doing that all the time, then there's not much to save. I mean, it's funny because folks act like there's some kind of a reserve. Well, there's a reserve they haven't used. Well, they're playing this type of team, so, we're going to perfectly gauge how much effort we, saving. Like, because if you save effort, you don't get to spend it on the next guy, I mean, no, you do the best you can. You try to improve. And most importantly, it's important to do the best you can under all circumstances so that you are improving, and that's what you do. You just play the very best you can. And then so there's not much to change, with regard to, the SEC is the most talented conference. I don't think there's any question about that. But, I mean, as far as coaching your team and winning games and being the best you can with what you have, it's eerily similar to Iowa Wesleyan.
Coach, we're going to go over here on the left side near the back along the far aisle.
Yes, sir. Edgar Thompson of the Orlando Sentinel. Nick Saban's so-called blueprint has kind of provided the template for a lot of coaches around the league with varying degrees of success. Being in the game as long as you have and kind of marching to your own beat. What do you notice about some of the underpinnings of it and why it's so successful for him?
I guess I don't fully understand the question. I mean, some of it's the resources of the program, not to take anything away from Coach Saban, because he does a tremendous job, and he's and then also has a big tree of coaches, but there's, circumstances can be beneficial too. I mean, he's done things at Alabama that nobody thought were possible, but I would say that, he's a better coach at Alabama than he was at Michigan State, for example. And so I think there's some circumstances that can contribute to, success too, that have to be accounted for. But he does a tremendous job of, getting the most out of his players. And one thing that I've always liked is, he's not afraid to coach them hard. And then doing that over and over again. I mean, he's a guy that we all, admire, and, and then of course, the magnitude and power of Alabama commands attention.
All right, Coach, we'll go right here in front of me, 2 rows. Tom?
Hey, Coach. Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. I think it's a new ad, but Countdown to Pearl Harbor was compelling to me on Netflix.
Oh, yeah, you hear that? Countdown to Pearl Harbor. Don't miss that one.
why no opening statement for you? And then two questions. Where do you think you're going to be better as a team this coming year? And then what Will Rogers needs to improve on this year too?
Okay, so opening statements. Well, I hate opening statements, and I really don't see the point of it. And so, as opposed to me sit there and think of some flowery opening statement, which I've done before, and then at the end of the opening statement, a number of people ask questions that have already been addressed in my opening statement. I decided we just sort of cut out the middleman, and then you go ahead and ask the questions, and I'll go ahead and answer them. And then I think Will Rogers is going to improve. I think he needs to incrementally improve. And then I think that, offensively, everybody working together, I think we took a step in spring, and we have to keep doing it during camp.
All right, Coach, we'll go over here to our left on the aisle.
Hey, Mike, Stefan Kreisnig with the Clarion Ledger. You've talked in the past about your air raid, being a strategy you have that when you go face a team, it's the only time they face an offense like yours. How do you, adjust to that when you're facing teams now in the SEC like in Alabama or Ole Miss that have seen your offense two or three times now as you go into this season?
Well, so many people are adopting air raid concepts. Maybe it's not exactly what we do, but basically spread controlled passing games. That's all around the league now, and with rare exception, the whole NFL. So you see it a lot, and it's not all of a sudden they haven't seen it because they saw it in a number of teams that they played, or at least some variation. But football's always been a game of execution, and there's not a lot of roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote, who you ambushed and fooled the other guy, and then you walk away laughing like Muttley after, the rock fell on the guy or something like that. So it's always been a game of execution. It doesn't matter what you do schematically, you have to execute well, and I do think some schemes are better than others, but the most important thing is execution, and we spend more time thinking about practice and how to, teach what we want to execute. And the more sharply refined you can teach it and focus on it, the better you're going to be.
All right, Coach, we'll go over here to our right on the far aisle, about midway back.
Hey, Coach, Ken Capps from Football Writers of America. What do you have to say to the Texas and Oklahoma fans about coming to the SEC?
Well, I look forward to seeing them. I thought they were outstanding when I was in Texas. And of course, we played them both every year. Look forward to seeing them. From my standpoint, it's good to have them back, and then, and then, of course, you guys can debate, where everybody's best off. But no, I look forward to seeing them. I know a lot of Longhorns, and I know a lot of Sooners, and coached at Oklahoma. So, I've been a Sooner sympathizer for a while, and look forward to having them back.
All right, if you have a question, raise your hand. We're going to go on the aisle right in front of us, midway back. Michael?
Hey, Michael Cuscaranda, AL.com. Just wondering, have you seen the evolution of calling trick plays? How has that evolved over the years? Has it become more difficult with the offenses getting more exotic and it's harder to trick people?
I'll tell you that, you bring up something that I've kind of thought about a little bit, and I wish I had a good resolution to it. No, there's still trick plays. They still do trick plays, and trick plays need to be executed well. And trick plays have a value of the opponent seeing them, just from the standpoint now they have to adjust and they have to, deal with something. And then the other thing, and then their imagination, of course, can go wild on what else may be coming, And so it does create a certain amount of psychological damage, whether it works or not. And it depends. Well, there's all kinds of trick plays. We can think of all kinds of them. the rules have kind of somewhat aggressively tried to prevent trick plays, which I don't care for that approach. You know, I mean, there's been one rule after the next, you know, that over the years that you can't have trick plays. Or you can't have a certain type of play, which essentially was a trick play, which was probably a good idea. But, you know, people squawked enough that, you know, they legislated against it. I actually wish we still had drop kicks, but I had the perfect guy to do it, too, at Washington State. Logan Tago, he could drop kick it about 50 yards out. Anyway, so, yeah, there's a I don't like to homogenize and, make football kind of a cubicle game, and I think that some of these rules eliminating trick plays do just that. I think that, of course, is ridiculous. But I also think you got to pick your type of trick play, and so there's more three-man fronts and, nickel and dime packages as a result of people throwing it a lot more. So this notion of getting behind them is more difficult because teams are playing looser. But that doesn't mean there's other trick plays that you can't do underneath that are pretty good, and you'll see some every year. I do think there's a little less, though. Like, for example, I think, take the RPO crowd, for example. I think, the RPO guy has 2 or 3 reads of play. And it's not really a trick play. He's just going to try to put the ball where the defense isn't. But, I think with those reads and things, that replaces some trick plays.
And Coach, we'll go down here in front of me. Bob?
Hey, Mike. Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. I wanted to follow up on Will. You've obviously coached a lot of great quarterbacks. Well, what do you really like about his game? What makes him so good? And what do you think his ceiling is? And there's another one. I know you got a couple transfer kickers. How are those guys? What are you expecting from those guys? Do you feel like you'll have a good kicker?
Well, I think, first of all, Will stepped in and had great leadership qualities and wasn't afraid to talk to the locker room as a freshman, which I think is one of the more impressive, courageous things that he did. It allowed him to excel early. It allowed him to focus in on playing because he didn't have some of that stage fright that initial freshmen do. So I think it allowed him to progress quicker. I think it allowed the team to draw from him and kind of unify things. I think that was very impressive. I think Will's going to get better and better, and then the better he synchronizes with the other offensive players, the better everybody is. And then sometimes I think it's difficult to define what's Will, what's the receivers, what's the running backs, what's the O-line. But, that's the thing, is football's a team game, so everybody together is the most important part of it. Yes, something else. What was the other
Transfer
part?
kickers, Coach.
Oh, yeah, I had good luck with kickers through my whole career, including the time a guy walked out of the stands that we went ahead and had kick for us the next week. And we definitely hit a drought last year, and that was... that was unfortunate, and but we have several guys there kicking, and the ones that were here in spring looked very promising and did a good job. And then we have some others on campus that really have pretty good profiles. So, yeah, I'm optimistic we'll have a kicker.
Coach, we're going to go back here to the right side, standing up. There we go.
Robert Cessna, the Bryan College Station Eagle. Mike, what's your thoughts on USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten, and what do you think is going to happen to your old Pac-12 conference?
I don't know exactly, and a guy asked me something like that before. The biggest surprise in college football would be if there's no surprises, but I would say that's a pretty big one. and this is just one guy talking. I mean, I don't know. These are questions I have. The question I have is one, if the Pac-12 does manage to stick together, how much does it or does it help Cal and Utah get more recruits in Southern California? And then the other is, and I've been on long trips like that, UCLA and USC have to take 5 a year across 2 or 3 time zones, and I don't think they're going to play all those games at noon, say. I bet you they play a bunch of them at night, and then they have to do it 5 times a year, and then the rest of the Big Ten has to do it less than 1 time every other year. So I'm kind of curious how it'll unfold, and and I'll be here to watch it, and it may be such a great idea, everybody will do it.
Coach, we'll go right in front of you, second row.
Thanks. Coach Colin Wilson with the Action Network. As a master of the air raid and doing it for so long, is there a correlation to time off, bye weeks, or before bowl games, getting the air raid out of sync, or does it just an anomaly, or does it ever start slow? How does the air raid get affected by bye weeks and time off?
Well, I've seen it go both ways, and I've seen bye weeks pretty much go both ways with everybody. I think that, I mean, I've had bye weeks where, we're just ridiculously explosive, and I've had other ones where it was tough to get out of the chute. I think that, you just have to maintain the focus, and everybody's got control over that to a point, but I think it needs to be a team unified deal. And I've seen it go both ways. I do think it can make things a little more extreme.
Coach, we'll go back over here to our left on the aisle.
Mike, you were talking there about the Pac-12 a little bit, I guess. Are you excited to get back? I think it's week 2. You guys are playing at Arizona. And I guess how do you prepare for playing, I think it's a 10 p.m. kickoff in Starkville while you guys are in Arizona?
You don't prepare for it at all. You go there, win the game, and get on the plane, sleep the best you can, have later meetings on Sunday, and then, put it in and do it again.
Okay, we'll go here to the right side, coming up from behind you on the other end. Here we go.
Mike, John Clay with Aero Leader in Lexington. Talking about the air raid, how much has your particular version of the air raid changed, if at all, since you and Hal were together in Lexington?
It has. That's hard for me to gauge because, some of these changes are gradual over the years. And, some I forgot we changed. Some I forgot when we changed it. Some I could tell you kind of clearly. If we adopt a new play, I've always tried to cut one that we have so that so we can control the package and practice and execute it, because execution's most important. You're better off having too small of a package than too big a one. Often it's like techniques or a tag or an adjustment that may be changed, or perhaps where the way you practice it. It's something you try to grow and build on, all the time. Whether it's, watching film, everything from high school through to the NFL, and just try to figure. We used to call it, the whole find a better way to build the mousetrap,
We'll take one final question right in front, second row, Brett.
Hey, Mike. Brett McMurphy with the Action Network. With all of the conferences growing, 16 teams, maybe even bigger, are you optimistic for your 64-team playoff to ever get here?
That may be a conference championship you're referring to. I don't know. It's at some point. You know, I mean, I'm beginning to lose track of what's a league and what's a conference and what's a division. You know, and but you know, the more the merrier, I guess. And I'm not against any of it. And then as far as playoffs, there's a lot of models, and my thoughts on the playoffs are well documented. But you know, we have a great committee thinking about it, considering it, and and I do think it's steadily improved. So.
All right, Coach Leach, thank you for your time this afternoon.
All right, thank you very much.